NBA playoff time. It's time. It's officially here. You have the playoffs starting to ramp up. That'll be happening starting this weekend, the first round. We'll go through all those games. Look at the playing games that have been great so far to start the postseason. And then we got a couple more that'll happen tonight. So we're gonna look at all that stuff in the first round here on Ballin' Out today. Your host Shawn, Nate, Grant, back with you guys. I know excited that we're all excited that playoff basketball is back. This is I say the most wonderful time of the year. It's just because it's you got playoff basketball, you got a couple good matchups, and the weather's starting to warm up. So, what can be better than this? So, get into it real fast. Talk about the playing matchups first, real quick. Go back on Tuesday. Tuesday, two good playing matchups. You had the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets won by 127 to 126. That game went to overtime. Bam Adebayo did get hurt, left early in the second quarter. And you could say what you want about LaMelo Ball. I know some people were going back and forth saying it was his fault or whatever. But the Heat ultimately did not have enough to get it done. LaMelo Ball, 30 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists. He was kind of the player of the game right there. But what were you guys' takes from this Charlotte Miami game?
Dude, that was the most exciting game, probably NBA game I've watched in a long time. I mean, I forget what's the Charlotte the announcer. What's his name again? It goes crazy.
Eric Collins?
Eric
Yeah.
Kalinker. Yeah. I was a little bummed. Could you imagine if he was doing
If
that
he was
game
on
and
the
he was
call,
because like that's all I kept thinking
That
about.
game
But like
winner, he would have been going crazy.
because like the
dude.
last, I mean, I think we can all admit the last 2 minutes of regulation and then over like basically all overtime was just like special. Like that was fun. I mean, the whole game you could just tell. Like I don't know, I've had some like coworkers and stuff like talk to me like I don't even understand the play in. Like I don't get it. And I was kind of like I'm kind of there too. But dude, it's fun. I can't lie. Like it's basically like I think I've said this before on here. It's like the trailer to a movie. It's like, you're excited for the movie, but man, that trailer is pretty damn good too. And
Yeah.
so it's like that's kind of what it felt like this year. Like I mean, we'll get to it later, but like last night's game, like incredible. The Magic have no business, but that's another conversation there. But yeah, it was like the Hornets game was just special. It was so much back and forth. You can just tell like the switch from regular season to like the playoffs is it's just insane. Like you can literally just see it, and it's a different energy. So that was fun to watch. I'm sure both of you guys, were just as locked in as I was for that, and so. Definitely out of the playing games so far, that one's definitely got to be up there. I mean, I'd probably put that one just with everything that happened there, and then kind of not even really get into it yet, but kind of like you mentioned, LaMelo Ball, Bam. Did he intentionally do that? I don't think he intentionally did it. I think it's just kind of one of those things. When you knock a guy out in the first half like that, it's definitely something to look back on because he teamed it pretty well without him. I mean, they actually Tyler Hero stepped up pretty well. I mean, it was uh no lack of effort there on the Heat side. Every time I thought the Hornets were going to keep like they were up by like six something like that, I thought, okay, here we go, they'll get to double digits. They just kind of hovered around in there, and the Heat really kept them close. So. Very entertaining game, and I'd probably put that at my number one spot so far of the playing games.
Yeah, I agree. Even the first like 6 minutes of that game was so chaotic. Like they were essentially like transition every other play. Like it was fast paced. Guys were falling over. Bam was out to a hot start, which I think makes it suck a little bit more just because like that what if he did go for, 80. Like you said, the Heat players, they stepped up. Mitchell Ware was a beast on the boards. And it is unfortunate how that little situation happened where he couldn't come back in the game, but it was fun to see how the rest of the game transpired in terms of just the fast pace back and forth, but then also at the end there where, you thought the Hornets blew it essentially, where LaMelo turned the ball over and then fouled Hero on that three where I don't know necessarily what he was thinking on that. Maybe just try to contest quickly, but you know, it doesn't matter because he hit that layup at the very end. So it was for sure, yeah, one of the best playing games that I can think of the past couple years, and really all four games, other than maybe last night Philly and Orlando, where there were parts of that game were pretty exciting too. back and forth, but for sure, the games that we've had so far have been crazy, I think.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the postseason in general. I definitely agree with both of you guys saying that Charlotte Miami game was definitely the best so far. Shout out to Kobe White too. Had a couple of clutch shots. Came up big time for the Hornets. Like you guys said, when they were kind of dead in the water, when Grant Williams shot that three in the corner, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. I was like, you having Grant Williams shoot the three, I thought that was it. But Kobe White came in clutch there. And he's about the only one on that team that has like real playoff experience and is able to. I think he dropped 40 in a playing game a couple years ago. So it was cool to see that happen. Real quick, the Miami Heat, their season is over. What do you guys think has to happen now? Like we always hear the offseason, Pat Riley, they're in the stakes. They're gonna try to get Giannis. They're gonna try to get LeBron or Luca or somebody like that. But now it's kind of looking grim, I'd say, and they're kind of struggling to, get a superstar to pair with Bam. So, what do you guys think are, the next plan of action for the Miami Heat?
I mean, they either gotta like actually land somebody, like I mean, just go all in completely, or at this point, I mean, you kind of gotta start rebuilding a little bit. Because I mean, you're consistently sitting around that 10 seed. You're fighting for playing basically every single year. I mean, actually, not even fighting. They invite you to that. No, free of charge. Just show up. But it's like I mean, at the end, no seriousness. Like Bam is a very solid player. They have solid pieces. That's why I wouldn't lean in like towards like blowing everything up because I mean, again, I think if you were to just get one guy again, at least get you back in the conversation there, and then from there, can you complement him with somebody else as well? Can you build more? But really, you got to land that key guy because if I mean, Miami's it's a hot destination, like literally. I mean, it's warm as hell. It's nice. It's beautiful down there. I mean, I know us Michiganders, every time we go down there, it's like, man, I wish I could stay down here. Might just have to move, And so it's like if you're able to just secure a guy like that, I think if you can make it work, the team is not that far off for being really as record wise as bad as it is, in my opinion. But really, if you can't, at some point too, you got to kind of build up some pieces and look for the future because um, if you keep doing the same thing, it's not going to make a difference there, and you're not going to get any further. You're going to keep doing exactly what you've been doing, which is pretty mediocre.
Yeah, no, I think I saw it said that that was like their fourth straight year being in the play-in, where like you said, they're kind of guaranteed every year at this point. But from what I was seeing just in the last day or two with the conversations of like, Norman Powell and Hero weren't really playing much during that game together. You got to figure out that backcourt. I know earlier this season they were looking at Ja as a potential, piece that they want to add. But even if they don't go that route where they already like are looking for someone who's kind of already established, like I think this draft could potentially be a time to get a decent backcourt guy, whether that is looking at a Tyler Hero. I know Davion Mitchell had an incredible game. I think he is going to be a guy that they could keep for next season. But if they can turn some of those guys into a decent pick too, I mean, I agree with you. Like they got to figure out how they can try to make their team not just significantly like a tiny bit better, but go back to their kind of Heat culture way per se. But yeah, like Bam, Khalil Ware, Hero even, like I think those guys could potentially stay on the team next season. But it just depends on, yeah, like what Pat Riley is thinking. I think you said last episode, like Spoelstra, he's probably not going to be in jeopardy of his job at all. But it will just depend on how they actually want to build around Bam as their centerpiece. Because I don't know really if the whole Giannis thing is gonna ever transpire, and for Miami's sake, like it just doesn't really seem like that would be a pairing that would work out.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think my biggest question for them is Khalil Ware. Like, what do they decide to do with him? Because it was several times during the season that, Spoelstra would come out and say something about, his good play or, his bad play. And, have a bunch of questions from reporters about, just him not playing at all. And so I think that's my biggest thing for me looking at the Heat. And then, as you mentioned, like the Norman Powell, Tyler Hero, Davion Mitchell, like all those guys, the backcourt, they got to figure that out. I'd be surprised if Norman Powell even comes out because of his role kind of declines there, I'd say, within the last 2-3 weeks of the season. So yeah, very interesting to see, what will happen in Miami if they can kind of bring back that Miami Heat culture that, they've always been known for. So we'll see about that. Then the nightcap for Tuesday, the 8-7 playing game was the Trailblazers and the Suns. Portland was able to come away with the dub 114-110. This was a back and forth game. Portland had a big lead, and then Phoenix came back and, kind of got into a groove. And then they had a lead for a minute, and then Portland storms back late. Denny Avia, he is, I'd say, a star in the making. 41 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists. Ruins Jalen Green's night, 35 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Just, for me, this game real fast, it was just coming down to, I think, just defense, clutch shot making right there. Denny Avia, the layup, the Euro step into the lane to close out the game, that was pretty nice. I mean, we'll get more into it, once we talk about, full playoffs, but I don't see really Portland having a chance against San Antonio, even though both teams are fairly young, but it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a, interesting couple of matchups to see in this series.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wish I actually got to stay up for more of this. Unfortunately, I'm just old and couldn't make it that long. But it was a phenomenal game. Really, I'll be honest, right hand up. I just didn't expect any of this from the Trailblazers team. I kind of wrote them off a little bit. I thought it was going to take a little bit more time. I thought the West was, just tough. There's just going to be a tough, conference to kind of assert yourself and kind of climb to the playoff ranks there. But they sure as hell did. Like they look good doing it too. Like you said, they put together a pretty good team. Looks like they got a superstar in the making for sure. Um, and let's not forget too, they got 3-point shooting legend Dame Lillard coming back too. Just it's things like that too. It just kind of I kind of wrote them off a little bit, and yeah, so I was thoroughly impressed with kind of how they played. But then, kind of on the flip side, I want to say too is I think as good as the the Warriors win over Clippers was, I still think the Suns are going to handle the Warriors. I don't see the Warriors getting it done twice. I mean, Suns have been a very solid team. They've been floating that 7 seed basically the whole entire season. Haven't really dropped too much. Yeah, I think unfortunately, they're going to get matched up now with the Thunder, most likely, if, they were to win. And either way, I see Thunder, sweeping or gentlemen sweeping either of the teams that were to come out there.
Yeah, this game I didn't get to see a ton of, but I watched the highlights back, and the thing that kind of stuck out to me was a guy like Drew Holiday. I feel like he is a little bit forgotten on that team just in terms of his defense. And like you were saying, Shawn, like defensively, that team, along with Jeremy Grant coming off the bench too, like those guys, I wasn't anticipating be as much difference makers as they were. But yeah, like Denny going off in the biggest game of his career probably was definitely like the biggest boost for them. And I think for the Suns, I needed to see Devin Booker do a little bit more offensively. I think, he made some tough shots in the first half of the game, but in the second half he didn't really get his groove as much. He wasn't really looking for his. Maybe partially because Jalen Green was doing so well offensively too. But if they're playing against the Warriors, yeah, he's got to show up big time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for me in that last playing game for the 8 seed, the Warriors Suns, just, how much the Suns will be able to kind of like generate their offense. Because there was times in this game where they kind of, against the Trailblazers, where they kind of struggled, to get offense. Dylan Brooks, like, was a no-show until like the second half. And Devin Booker, like you said, Nate, like, it wasn't his biggest night or one of his best nights, but at times he's got to be a little bit more aggressive because I mean, Jalen Green shot 48%, 14-29 from the field, 2 for 7 from three. That's not going to happen again. I guarantee you that. Jalen Green's just too inconsistent of a player. And I would not trust him in an elimination game to do that once again. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. It could be, an interesting matchup, a fight for that 8 seed, all to get smacked by, like you said, Grant in 4 or 5 by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then moving on to Wednesday's playing games, you had the Orlando Magic and 76ers. Sixers came out with the win, 109-97. They are the 7th seed, and they will move on to play the Boston Celtics. Just my quick thoughts about this. Nate, you said it perfectly, I think, last episode. I'm tired of the Orlando Magic, man. It's time for them to give it up. It's time. I don't know if obviously, I think regardless of what happens tomorrow or on Friday, I think they're gonna end up firing Jamal Mosley. Even if they do make the playoffs, and then it's a question of Paulo Banchero. What exactly is he going to do? Paulo and Franz. I think you got to trade Paulo. I think it's just he shows up, at times, but then at times it's like he's when needed he doesn't show up. So, what were you guys' thoughts, about this game?
Yeah, it was honestly kind of a snooze fest, to be honest with you. I know final score was, I mean, a little bit closer than kind of what it felt like throughout the whole game. Never really felt like the 76ers lost control. Tyrese Maxey balled out for sure. Future top 5 MVP candidate. Mark my words there. But yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, Nate really did say it perfect. And I'll even say right hand up on it too, because I thought the Magic were going to play a lot better this year. I really did. I kind of thought this was the year. Maybe they kind of put some of it together and maybe they make even like a run in the playoffs.
Same.
Necessarily far, but yeah. But no, it was kind of like the exact opposite. And like watching them, they don't really have an identity right now. It kind of looks a little lost. Like, do they go to Paolo like a lot? Do they have him like run the offense? Do they like honestly? It doesn't. They have no direction right now, and until they get that figured out, and Shawn, like you mentioned, I mean, who knows? They might not even have to figure it out. Maybe they just move on and dish them out there. But I don't know exactly what their plan is. Would not be shocked at all if the Hornets were to win. I think tomorrow, yeah, as we're recording Thursday, if they win tomorrow night, wouldn't be shocked to see the Hornets, and Pistons, face off. If it's not, if the Pistons got to play the Magic, that is going to be BTA. For one down, for one down. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Perspective.
yeah. That's a clean sweep. Yeah, unless we want to, just come back, for Game 5, just so we can, sell out some more tickets.
Close it out at
I
home.
wouldn't blame it.
Yeah.
That's fine because I get the strat. I give us, Michigan or something else to root for, but yeah, I mean, really, Nate just hit I mean, he said it perfect. Magic, I think we just need to get him out of here. And 26ers really aren't, they're not, a bad team either for that 7 seed. I think that Boston series I think it will be good. I think Sixers can get a game or two there, make that interesting.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed with this game was just I think Embiid's, lack of playing in the game kind of affected Philly in that first half, which kept it a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But I mean, can we talk about Andre Drummond for like 2 seconds? Like, I don't know if it's 2016 again, but 14 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks. He had 2 threes, a big three in the last like minute of the game. I was so surprised to even see that. And he's consistently all year, been hitting these corner threes. But with Embiid being out too, like this was the time that he needed to start playing like this. But yeah, like Maxi, he's been a dog all year. Edgecombe had a great game too for his first kind of playoff experience. I know Knipple didn't really have a great game, but then seeing another younger guy like him play well was nice. But yeah, with this Magic team, it's just there is something. It's that either the Franz and Paolo thing, like they don't really know who's their number one, I think, and they got to figure that out because they do have good young guys, and Desmond Bain obviously was their best player the other night, and I think if they want to continue having that young core stay together, they got to figure out who's going to be their number one guy ultimately. But yeah, in terms of when they go against the Hornets, I know they'll be at home, so maybe they'll keep it close at least, but it's gonna be hard to play the Hornets team just because I think how fast paced they are and how good their defense has been just in the last couple games.
Yeah, Hornets have been solid. I mean, really, since after the All-Star break, they've been a solid team offensively and defensively. So I think they'll for sure give the Magic some problems. But I think, yeah, it comes down to Desmond Bain. And I think the main thing for the Orlando Magic is they do want to make the playoffs because that Desmond Bain trade, 5 first-round picks is going to start looking a little bad if you don't make the postseason. So, yeah, we'll see what ends up happening on that. on Friday night. The 9-10 game, here we go. The Warriors and the Clippers. The Warriors were able to sneak away and get the win 126-121. It was, a good game. The Clippers were up by 13 with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Stephen Curry decided to go nuclear. Al Horford showed up, and Draymond Green played the best defense that I've seen probably in 4 years or so. I mean, I could go, on about this, but I'll just keep it short. I mean, Darius Garland following out was not ideal. Kawhi not scoring in the fourth quarter, not ideal. Brook Lopez as our only big man playing the entire second half, not ideal. Um, and it was just on top of Stephen Curry going off in the second half. I think he dropped like 27 points or something like that, finding his rhythm. Porzingis actually, being an impactful player and showing up. That was another thing that kind of put the nail in the coffin for the Clippers. My thing about the Clippers, I think now it's just we'll see what ends up happening with Kawhi Leonard. That could have been his last game as a Clipper. With his possibility of signing an extension this summer, or you could say, "Great knowing you guys, but I think it's time to move on and go to a contender." Because the Clippers aren't contending right now, and we'll end up seeing if this Pacers pick can convert to 5 through 8, so and we can get some type of a lottery pick. If not, then it's going to be looking grim again next year, especially, with Kawhi Leonard or without Kawhi Leonard. So that's my little spiel on the Clippers.
Well, I won't do you dirty like this. I know it's a sad day for you. I actually didn't watch a second of it, if I'm being honest. I was knocked out cold. I was tired. It's a long day yesterday. Woke up to saw the news. Woke up saw Draymond playing like old school, defensive player of the year defense. Was like, whoa, okay. And then I mean, Taylor's old as time. Steph Curry just going nuclear, dragging his team. When they're not maybe necessarily the greatest, and putting on a show. And so, uh, like you said, mix that with the combination of just unfortunately, it sounds like the Clippers just couldn't get it done. They didn't have not necessarily the right pieces out there. Just like you mentioned, Garland fouling out. That's not something you plan for. Kawhi, you just kind of assume he's good for at least 8 in the fourth. I mean, on a bad night. So, um, things like that happen. But yeah, I guess we'll have to get another episode, just maybe in the summertime when there's not as much to talk about. Kind of where do you see this Clippers team going at some point? But for now, um, yeah, curious to see if the Warriors from here can go on and somehow make the playoffs here, because I think that would still be that'd be absolutely impressive. I don't know. I feel like Devin Booker's going to get more shots up. Just kind of quickly switch to that matchup. I just think that's going to be uh, it's going to be a matchup that he has his hands all over, and I think at the end of the day, I think the Suns pull that one out, like I mentioned. But yeah, good dub for the Warriors. Definitely. I mean, weird seeing him in the playing game, as much recently, but always fun to watch Steph in the playing game because he does that to a lot of teams. It's not just you guys.
Yeah, he's done that to most of the Western Conferences his whole career. So don't hang your head too low, because I think Grant had said it earlier in the year too. We knew this was going to happen. The Clippers are going to make the play-in and then they're going to lose the first game. I think he also said maybe Kawhi should just retire,
I think yeah.
which it's looking like, that might be the best route for him right now. But this game was exciting at the very end for sure. I think I said it too. D Santos randomly legacy game, 20 points. Like, there was a little bit of luck for the Warriors for sure, just with some of their role players stepping up. But with Curry going crazy and the end of the game there, it was just too much for the Clippers, and it's gonna come down to next season. Obviously, I think the Harden trade now, it's still, I think, good for the Clippers just because they got younger and they got some other picks. But you really could have used a guy like Zubac if you still had him in a game like this. He was definitely a missed presence just in terms of defensive rebounds, stuff like that. But I think for next year too, the Clippers, they just got to figure out, the Kawhi situation. Because I already know it's going to be talked about during the summer. Is he going to extend? Like, is he just going to move on? Like, is the whole controversy thing still going on with Ballmer and them, so they got a lot to figure out. But overall, from them being what 6-20 at the beginning of the year to making the plan, I wouldn't say it was a totally failed season, but there was definitely some glaring areas that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's honestly like the only reason why I wanted them to win this game was, kind of to go with the narrative, start 6-21 and kind of, finish the season out strong, especially without James Harden and Zubac. And it's kind of tough when Brook Lopez, is your starting center, and then your backup center is combination of John Collins and Nick Batum. So, yeah, it was tough, for them out there. But yeah, I think the main thing for the Clippers going into this offseason is one, Kawhi Leonard. What is he going to do? And then two, trying to get younger. I mean, they've tried a little bit, with the two trades, getting Garland, getting Ben Mathurin. We'll see, if Mathurin comes back, but yeah, I think now it's could be end of an era, end of era for two in a Los Angeles Clippers jersey. Not the best, I'd say, tenure. But I think ultimately, like, he had some good moments. And definitely, this was his best season. Glad to, that it was a sad way to go out for sure, but glad to see, that it did end up happening. Um, yeah, like you said, Grant, we'll maybe one day this summer we can go more in depth of into the Clippers and what their situation is. But then looking at the playing games that are left, they're going to be for the 8th seed. I know we talked about it a little bit, but just get predictions real fast. We got the Hornets and the Magic. That winner will move on to play the Detroit Pistons. And then we got the Warriors and the Suns in the West. The winner will go on to play the Thunder. Regardless, I echo what Grant said earlier. Hornets or Magic. Pistons, you say 4, I say 5, just because I'll let them get a game. Western Conference, yep, same thing, 5. I think if it's the Suns, it might be a sweep in 4. I think the Warriors, just because it depends, obviously, on Stephen Curry if he can stay healthy, but I think he's ultimately going to get, I think, one game, especially, one game at home, maybe like game 3 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the Hornets take care of business there, and I mean they can get one on us if it's the Hornets. If it's the Magic, though, it's 4, no question about it. But Hornets just they really do got good offense when they get going. And Khan's a dog. LaMelo is kind of just runs the whole offense in a way too, and just gets everybody involved, and as well as getting himself involved. I'm easily taking the Hornets there, and then I mean it will be a dogfight, but I'm still taking the Suns there, like I mentioned. I just think at the end of the day, it's just going to be too much for Steph, and I think some of these other guys aren't necessarily going to be having that great of a game. And I think D Book will step up too. I think they haven't fallen like really below that 8 seed. I don't think like all year, and so like to miss the playoffs and at that point, it's like that's just got to be like the most deflating thing ever. Like that one, I think would just hurt more. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go with the Suns there.
I think I might actually go opposite. I'm gonna take the experience of the Warriors. I don't think after seeing Curry play like that, I can bet against them. Obviously, their team wasn't as good in the regular season, but it seems like in the playoff games, like or these playing games, they play totally different. So it doesn't even necessarily matter what happened in the regular season. But yeah, I think we all agree with the Hornets. I think we want to see them win and play against the Pistons rather than Magic. And for the Magic's sake, I think they just need to get into the off season. Like I said before, they need to figure out their whole situation. So, but yeah, I'm excited to watch the game tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be 2 good games, and, a lot on the line. And I think, going back, echoing the Warriors, I think not only will it come down to Steph, but the role players as well. Like, if those role players can step up and play as good as they did against the Clippers, then I think they'll have a fair shot at beating Phoenix. But like Grant said, also you can't count out Devin Booker. I don't think Devin Booker is going to have that mid of a game again. And he'll be able to piece it together and hopefully get into the postseason. So then we got round one. Round one starting off Saturday and Sunday. All game ones will be played. Obviously, we're still waiting to see who the 1 seed will be playing in each conference. With the 8 seed still to be determined in Friday's playing games. But we'll start in the East with everything else. So we do have the 2-7 matchup figured out. That's going to be the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. I think Boston gets this one in 6. I just don't think that Philly, they've been up and down all year. Maxey, he's going to do his thing. Embiid will probably do his thing just because of, I don't trust Vucevic to stop Embiid defensively. But I do think he's out. I've seen a couple of reports that said like he could play, if possible, but we'll see if he even does suit up. That's, I think, one thing that everyone's waiting for. So if he doesn't play, Celtics in 5. If he does play, Celtics in 6. But either way, I think Boston runs away with this series. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have something to prove once again.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mean, I personally think Boston gets done in 5. I mean, I think even as good as I don't know. I take it back. I'll go with you there. I'll say 6 as well, just because Andre Drummond, the way he's been, been playing a little bit on that rebounding side of things, picking up when he needs to. I'd be curious to see how that hurts Boston there, but Boston's going to win the series. It's no question there.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. I know they've played against each other a couple times in the playoffs just in the past couple years, and it's usually been a good matchup. But with Embiid, I'm going to say he's probably not going to play. It's probably favors Boston heavily just in terms of experience wise too, with Philly having a couple younger guys in their lineup. But these East games too, for Saturday wise, I mean the Cavs and the Raptors, like I think all the East series are gonna be pretty tight game to game.
Yeah, speaking of that, we can go on to that series, Cleveland Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors. I could see this one being close, but then at the same time, I could see the Raptors kind of just falling off. In the second half of the season, like they kind of struggled a little bit on the offensive end to kind of generate offense. So it'll be interesting to see, like, who can step up in the big moments, if it's Brandon Ingram or if it's like RJ Barrett or something like that. But I do ultimately think that the Cavs get this done in, I'd say, 6 games, maybe even 5 games. It just depends on, one, I think what type of James Harden you get. And two, the Cavs have had inconsistencies in the lineup during the postseason, especially the last couple of years with their big men and their injuries. So if Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are good to go and can play at full health, then that's going to be a key thing for them. The Twin Towers down there. So that's why I'd say 5. But at the same time, Jared Allen and the bright lights don't mix well. So I could see, Toronto getting a couple games there.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I want Cavs 4-2. I got them in 6 games there. I just think at the end of the day, like, yeah, you mentioned, you got Twin Towers down low, plus you got, I mean, 2 of the better, offensive guys, in the league right now, and Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. Um, Obviously, we know James Harden. It's now playoff time, so we'll see what happens there. But even that, just yeah, like you mentioned, Shawn, like where does Toronto really get its offense from? Can they continuously get that over, a best of 7 series against, the Cavs? And I don't think so. I think like RJ is gonna have to step up in roles that we just haven't necessarily seen for a 7-game stretch. And so for that, yeah, I think 4-2 is probably what it's gonna be. I think they can still get a couple, no doubt about that, but Cavs just have too much firepower.
Yeah, I want to agree, but I don't know. I'm kind of like feeling the Scotty Barnes train. You guys were saying RJ. To me, he's been kind of not really a big factor for them this year just because he's been out a lot of the season. But if Scotty can really lock up D Mitch, and also will depend on I think on Emmanuel quickly too on how well he can play. But it will be fun to see that big man matchup down low because if Mobley has a couple games where he drops 20 plus along with Allen, then that might be hard for Toronto to try to keep up with. But if anything, I want to say Cavs in 7. I think this series goes at least 6 or 7. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know though. I might change like every other game though is the thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a game to game series to determine who comes out of it because one, like you said, it depends on can Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Quickly, those guys, in the supporting cast, can they get it done? And can Cleveland, we know they're notorious in the postseason, great regular season, but postseason, they kind of, outside of Donovan Mitchell, kind of just go to the wayside. So it will be interesting to see, I think, just game to game, how this series ends up. I think this will be one of the better series just all around. But at the same time, I could see it being on the wayside because if Cleveland's making a whole bunch of threes, then it could, get a little ugly for Toronto. So we'll see. And then the last one in the Eastern Conference is the 3 and the 6. You got the New York Knicks taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Last time these two teams played in the playoffs, we all know what happens. We had Villain Trey. I don't think we will have a villain Jalen Johnson in this one. I could be wrong, or a villain Nah. That would be kind of cool. Um, I don't know. I go back and forth. The way the Hawks ended the season, it's like I could see them possibly. I think they're going to get a couple games, but I could see them making it a little bit hard for New York. But New York at the same time was also kind of on a roll at the end of the season. They started, I think, to figure out what was going on with their offense. I think for this series, it's really going to come down to two players, one on each side. One, what are you going to get from Mikal Bridges on the Knicks, and then two, the Hawks, where are you going to get from the role players? So everyone outside of Jalen Johnson, Nah, and CJ McCollum, what are you going to get outside of them? I think that's going to be a big factor. I want to lean Knicks 7, but I could see at the same time Hawks in 7. I think this will be one of the longer series that we will see in this first round.
Yeah, I won't beat the dead horse, but yeah, I got Knicks in 7 at the end of the day because I do think I really think the Hawks are giving a battle there. I mean, you mentioned all great points there. It's just I think at the end of the day, like Knicks just have the better stars there. They got guys that have just been there. They're a little grittier, and like you mentioned, like they really have kind of put it together to finish the season off. Because I was very skeptical, like at the very beginning, after new head coach, kind of after not really needing one, in my opinion, but kind of how is that going to affect the team, affect the locker room? And yeah, they kind of just started putting it together and kind of figure out their identity a little bit. So for that reason, because I was to go Hawks originally, I mean, I really thought they could give maybe even 2 rounds in the playoffs, but yeah, the Knicks have just they've been here, they've done that, and they're starting to get a little bit hotter. So for that reason, I'm gonna still take them in 7, but I take the Knicks.
Yeah, I had down Knicks in 6. I think the one guy that I'm looking at is Cat. He's got to be, because Atlanta doesn't really have a solidified big man, so he's got to be on his bully this series, and he's got to average for me at least like 25 and 12. I think for them to really have a dominant series against Atlanta, because yeah, you're right. I think it could get a little bit ugly if a guy like him isn't as aggressive as he should be. Because yeah, I mean, Brunson, he's gonna do his thing night to night, and Jalen Johnson, we already know what he can do. So it's gonna come down to the matchups, I think. And if Cat is not, if he's playing his, foul game and being shooting threes, which he'll shoot threes, but I'm saying like if he's settling, I think he needs to try to get to the basket a lot during this series. But yeah, I'd say Knicks in 6 for this one, and I definitely want to see that next matchup against Boston, that Knicks Boston matchup, because I think that's always fun to see those two big market teams go against each other. But then yeah, you also forgot Detroit, so don't forget about them.
Yeah, no, we can talk about Detroit. I know we
Clean
talked
sweep.
about. Yeah. I think regardless of who they play, I think Charlotte will get a game. I think Orlando, with just everything that's going on, yeah, I think it's going to be a sweep unless you get, a Desmond Bain legacy game or something like that. But yeah, I think just the Pistons, the thing for the Pistons, and this is not even this round, but the entire postseason is if the threes can go down, the Pistons are a dangerous team. If the threes are struggling, then, it could be a little bit of a closer game. But I do, all in all, like the Pistons, regardless, to move on to the second round for the first time. And I don't know, it's got to be 20 odd some years at this point. So yeah, and shout out Cade. I think Cade has something to prove. I could see him averaging about 30 points, not only this series, but I think in the postseason.
MVP eligible, Cade, by the way.
Hmm.
Facts. MVP eligible, 65 game rule. He got the exemption. So I'm glad he will finally get his. I think he should be an all NBA first teamer, but I think it's gonna come down to him versus Jaylen Brown versus Kawhi. I think it's gonna be those three that are gonna be for that
Oh,
last
Kawhi
spot.
ain't making it now.
I mean,
Hell no.
he's
Not
gonna
after
make
that
it.
performance. Not after that performance.
He's
You're
gonna
not making
make it.
first team. You're not making first team.
No,
Right.
first team, probably not. But I think second team for sure. And then I've seen some things like this could knock Jalen Duren off of the All NBA teams, just because of Cade is now eligible. Cade and Luka are now eligible. But yeah, no, we'll see. I know we've talked about the 65 game rule and all that stuff, so I was glad to see that this morning. That Luka and Cade were both eligible for that. Then moving on to the Western Conference, so obviously we got the 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder is still waiting for their opponent. I think we all agreed that regardless, it's going to be a 4-game series.
Basically, I mean, yeah,
If it's the
4 or 5.
Warriors, yeah, 4 or 5. I would like to see the
Yeah.
Warriors just because I want to see that Shea Curry matchup. I think that would be kind of fun. Maybe not necessarily like passing of the torch, but I just think that's going to be, obviously that's like Curry being the best point guard the last 10 years and then Shea being the best point guard, hopefully the next 10 years. I think that would be more exciting to watch versus, I mean, Dylan Brooks and Booker. Like, I don't know. That they just kind of annoy me sometimes in terms
You
of.
want to see
Yeah.
a Dylan Brooks Lou Dort matchup? I
No,
think that
I
would
don't want to
be.
see it.
Yeah, no, that I think regardless of who ends up winning that 8 seed, I think Warriors. Like I said, I think Warriors can get a game. I do agree with you guys, but if it's the Suns, I don't know. I mean, I think just the Thunder are just a better overall team, just all around than the Suns. So I think they kind of walk them out the gym. It might be 1 or 2 close games, but I think they get it done in 4 games there. They got the 2 and 7 seeds, San Antonio Spurs, going up against the Portland Trailblazers. Mentioned this earlier, but 2 young teams going to the postseason. But for the Spurs, this is most of their, I think, outside of like Harrison Barnes and De'Aaron Fox, this is their first time being in the playoffs. For the Trailblazers, I think outside of Drew Holiday and Robert Williams for them Celtics and Bucks tenure, I think this is their first time in the postseason. I just think that the Spurs, I think, are just too much of a better all around team here. I think the Spurs do get it done. Portland could possibly make it a little bit difficult, but I do see the Spurs winning this series in 5. I don't think Donovan Clingan. I think he's going to struggle with Wemby trying to defend him. And if you can get guys like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie to shoot the way they were shooting all season long, then yeah, it's going to be a real nightmare for the Portland Trailblazers. It's going to be a lot of long nights.
Yeah. I don't think the Blazers necessarily match up the greatest with the Spurs there. I get they're both relatively younger teams there. Like you mentioned, had not a whole lot of playoff experience, but like Wemby's just different. At the end of the day, I think he's just gonna. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, at the highest stages of the game, when he's playing against top tier talent, like he still is able to take his game to the next level. And I think it'll be no different here. I think this series we might see like maybe games where like they kind of struggle, but I think together, I wouldn't see the Spurs team losing more than 2 games. And moving on there.
I agree with that. I am excited now that it's Portland though to see how like Steph Castle plays against a guy like Drew Holiday. 2 more defensive minded guards, and also with him being first first year playoff guy, or not first year, but first playoff experience. See kind of how he performs. I think that'll be fun to see. And then, but yeah, I mean Wemby, he's gonna be the difference maker in this series. Can't count out Denny though. I mean, if Denny averages 27, and they can get a game or two, that would be pretty exciting for Portland. But yeah, I think it's the whole country has San Antonio.
Yeah, I would echo that. I agree. These last 2 playoff series for the first round in the West, I think are going to be the best 2 playoff series that we're going to get. I honestly, faithfully couldn't give you my prediction is probably going to be off, but here we go. Fuck it. We got the number 3 seed Denver Nuggets going up against the number 6 seed Minnesota Timberwolves. This is, I feel like, a rivalry at this point. Anthony Edwards going up against Nikola Jokic. I think I want to say Nuggets, but I'm going to say Timberwolves in 7. Unless, someone on the Nuggets can stop or slow down Anthony Edwards. But what we've seen the last 2 playoffs with Anthony Edwards, he's just taken it to another level. I think they get it done here in 7 games. we know what Jokic is going to bring to the table. We know what Jamal Murray is going to bring to the table. Aaron Gordon, he's going to have his moments. But I think really for the Nuggets, it's going to come down to who's going to be that X factor. Is it going to be Payne Watson? Is it going to be Christian Braun? Is it going to be Cam Johnson? One of those guys. And then for the Timberwolves, I think honestly, like I said, if Ant's going to do Ant, I think really this is going to come down to Julius Randle. If Julius Randle can kind of turn back the clock and do what he was doing last postseason, then I think they'll be good. But the way he ended the season, the regular season, it was just, not the best. He was not looking like his usual self. So I think that's going to be key to see here for the Minnesota Timberwolves, if they want to try and have championship aspirations.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it will be a good series, but I kind of disagree a little bit. I got the Nuggets in 6. And I've mentioned it earlier, on other podcasts we've done, but I'm just not super high on the whole Wolves team as a whole. I get, obviously what you get from Anthony Edwards is, I mean, next level offensive production there. It's like, okay, who's going to guard him? But really, like when it comes down to the playoffs, is like, I mean, what hurt him so much last year too is, Julius Randle just wasn't, he just couldn't, wasn't that guy really. And it was like, okay, like if Ant's going to be doing all this, like who's going to be the guy that gets him help? And at the end of the day, again, which I am hoping for that, because I do want to see a great series here, but I don't think he's capable of that, and I really think Jokic is just that much better. I think he, like you mentioned, the X factor. I get, some of these other guys, Christian Braun and stuff. I think we'll have a pretty good series, but like I think Jokic is just going to dominate that much too. Where I think it's just as much as Edwards, cooks and he goes crazy. I think Jokic will basically be doing just the same thing. And I think for that reason, that's why I got Denver 4-2.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'm gonna stick with my hot take earlier this year of Denver not winning a playoff series and take Minnesota, uh, probably in 7. The only thing that I'm concerned about is in the past years, or just matchups in general, that Jokic Rudy matchup. It seems like Jokic hates that man for some reason because he always cooks him. And
Hope so.
if he has if he has a field day every game on him, it's gonna be tough. But it will come down obviously to the star players. And I do like, the Randall take. I think he's gonna have to be a big contributor. But even so, I think Minnesota helped themselves during the trade deadline, picking up Io and, having McDaniels come back later in the year. I think he is gonna be a big defensive presence for them. So it's gonna be a gritty series regardless. Like last year, it was super fun to watch too. But I think in terms of scoring, I don't know though. I want to see Ant have at least like 1 or 2 40-point games against these Nuggets for sure. But if Jokic and Murray play like they have been all season, it's definitely going to be hard to get a game.
Yeah, I think Ant can be able to get, I'd say, 1 or 2 40-point games. Jamal Murray, we all know, turns into a different player in the postseason. And yeah, like you said, Nate, I can't wait to see Rudy Gobert and Nikola Jokic match up once again. And everyone get fooled thinking Rudy Gobert is just this great defender, and all of a sudden in the last 5 minutes game, you're like, oh wait, where's this 7-foot Frenchman that's supposed to be in the game, but he's not in the game. Or there's gonna be a game winner hit over him by Jamal Murray, and that clip's gonna be resurfacing over everything for the next 3 days or whatever until they play the next game. So yeah, I think that series though is going to be popcorn. I think that's going to be a great series. But then you got that last series there, 4 and 5 matchup. You got the Los Angeles Lakers going up against Houston Rockets. Brown and KD, this could be the last time they faced off against each other in the postseason. They've had some great battles. No Luka, no Austin Reeves for the Lakers. That's what they say, but my take is one of them is going to come back during this series around maybe game 3 or game 4. Uh, but I want to lean the Lakers here just because of how inconsistent the Rockets have been all year, the lack of just defensive communication, especially down low with like Sengun. Like he's not it defensively.
Wait, you taking the Lakers?
I'm leaning Lakers. I am leaning Lakers, but here's my thing. I don't can,
Listen,
can
let him
LeBron
finish. Let him
can
finish. Hold
LeBron
on.
can LeBron do it? Can LeBron turn back the clock and do it? Outside of LeBron, who else are you going to? You're gonna DeAndre Ayton, if he can turn back the clock and go back to 2021, when he was in the finals and have that kind of postseason, maybe. But I think, if LeBron can say, hey, let's get it. I just need this one series to be the guy. And then after that, you get Luka and AR coming back. I think obviously it's possible at 41 years old, and hate to say this, but I mean, man's been doing great things all season long. Yeah, I'm torn about this series, but I am going to lean Lakers in 6 or 7, unless Kevin Durant or Amen Thompson or somebody can just have an outstanding series here.
I I I don't even
That's
know how to
crazy.
describe. I don't even know how to describe this series, and that is crazy too. I can't believe you actually did that, Shawn. But I don't know, man. I can't rationally make a decision on this series here. It's like you mentioned. There's no way that Luca and AR miss all of this series. I don't know when, but by that point, what is LeBron doing? Can he get a game or two or something until maybe they get back, or do him and Aiden start clicking a little bit more now? Does LeBron just run the whole offense and go back to the olden days? I mean, we'll find out, I guess. And I don't know if I can even make a prediction. I have currently. I wrote down Lakers 4-3. I didn't know what else to do. I think it's going to be one of the best series probably in the first round for sure. Definitely one of the most talked about, just with obviously, LeBron and KD probably being maybe one of the last times we see them in the playoffs. So that's going to be special as it is. But really, for me, the biggest and only question comes to the Lakers side. That's when, when is AR or Luka going to come back? I know you mentioned things with the Rocket side of things, but I mean, when you got seasoned vets that have done this, I mean, Kevin Durant obviously been doing it, you know, forever now at this point. But like Steven Adams too, you got guys like this that just gonna come out there. I think make a strong presence in the game there. So I don't know. We'll see if we can even stop Sengun. I just don't know. I'm gonna just stop right there and go Lakers 4-3. It's just a mess.
Yeah, I was not expecting that out of you, Shawn. I mean, I'll just start off, I guess, saying LeBron, he's my king, my GOAT.
Yeah,
He's the one. He's the chosen one. But I see the Rockets probably taking this in 5 games. There's just no way that I see a way that this Lakers team with their, surrounding pieces without AR and Luca that they can pull out a 7 game series, I think. I think it's going to be too hard to guard multiple of those Rockets guys. I mean, you have Sengun and KD who can individually go off for 30 a night, and then you throw in Thompson who could go off for 30 or 40 like he has shown in the past couple weeks. And then just defensively, and even I think in transition, I think they're probably a little too fast, too young for them. I would love to see the Lakers pull the upset off and LeBron have a 2018 type performance where he averages, 35 and 10 and, 8 or whatever, 9. But I just, the man's 41. You can't count on too much. And at this point, too, I think LeBron wants to prepare for golf season. As much as he wants to get plan ring 5, it's just it's not looking good. I would love to see though if Luca can come back game 3 and change the whole series, that would be awesome. But 2 for next season even, I don't want to risk anything with him. Like if he aggravates that hamstring or tears something, you already know Lakers fans are going to be like, "Oh, why'd you play him?" You know, we have all next year and the whole next season is going to be ruined. So it's, I think, yeah, like going to be one of the better seasons or games in terms of hype wise. But I think this Rockets team just has a little bit too much youth and pace on their side.
Yeah, and they have 1 year of playoff experience under their belt. Last year they got upset by the Warriors. but they kind of learned from that. So I think it's like I said, it's gonna be a good series. Real quick, I was just scrolling through Twitter. This was a couple days ago, and somebody came up with the theory that Luca. I do believe that Luca is truly hurt. Yes. But the whole going to Europe thing, I think it was, to go see his kid and try to get all this figured out before the postseason. I don't think it was to really, get medical advice or anything like that. So that's why I said the Lakers in 7, because I truly do think that, okay, game 3, Luca comes back. I know they've said, like, Shams and everybody has been like, oh, yeah, he's out indefinitely and everything. I think there's some underlying things about that are kind of hidden, under wraps. And I would not be surprised if he comes back game 3 or game 4 ready to go, looking like Luka Doncic. He has been all season long. So that's kind of why I leans the Lakers. But at the same time, I could see the Rockets. Kevin Durant has not won a playoff series since 2021. So I think, for him, this is a big thing. And he's, going to come down and try to, get it done before the possibility of Luka or Austin Reeves, even coming back if they come back in this series. So yeah, like you guys both said, I was torn about this one. I think this will probably be right there with that Denver Minnesota series. I think those two are going to be the best series in this first round to start off the postseason. And they
Yeah,
possibly
the one thing too I'll say about this series is the reason why I don't think the Lakers, like, part of me doesn't want them to win because I don't want to see them get absolutely crushed by OKC next series. I'd rather see a more competitive Rockets OKC series, and I don't think my heart could take LeBron getting cooked by the Thunder too.
You don't think if AR and Luca come back by that time, if they're ready to go, you don't think that you could put up a fight with OKC?
I mean, they could put up a fight. Let's be honest. OKC is probably running away with the West here. I think we all wanted to see OKC Spurs for the Western Conference Finals. So, but both of these teams, it's going to be hard for them to win that second round matchup regardless.
Yeah, I would agree. And the last thing to wrap it up, I know it's early and we've kind of had our battles with some of these series already, but can you pick a champion? Can you or maybe not a champion, but let's do the finals matchup. Who do you think is gonna come out the East? Who do you think is gonna come out the West? East, I'm gonna say Detroit for now, even though I could see, Boston is the favorite right now. The West, I honestly don't know. Like you said, OKC, they ran it back. They're looking like, the team to beat. But then you gotta think, Denver, if they can get out of this first round, they play who they play? The Spurs, in the second round, so that could be another series there. I'm gonna go with the Minnesota Timberwolves though, because I think if they do beat Denver, I think that they'll be able to get to the finals. I do think they've made the Western Conference Finals two straight years before. I think if they get back this time, they'll be able to get through, whether it be against San Antonio or it be up against OKC.
Wow, that is quite the hot take right there. I can't lie there, Shawn. Yeah, I in the West, I'm gonna take Spurs are just a little young. I get OKC's young, but they literally have championship experience. It's so hard to pick against OKC right now. I mean, they just kind of do everything right. But if anyone's going to beat them, in my opinion, it's going to be the Spurs there. I'll just for the sake of things, I'll just say OKC right now out of the West. But out of the East, as much as it pains me to say it, I think with Detroit's lack of 3-point shooting, I don't know if we have the full firepower to make it to the finals per se. I think Boston's got a little bit of an edge on us there. As much as that pains me to say,
That was
I
your hot
don't,
take though.
huh?
That was your hot take though, that Detroit was going to the finals this year.
That's
Oh,
facts. I do remember that.
yeah, things have changed a little bit. I mean, it's just I also didn't think Tatum was going to come back like at all this season, and then all of a sudden he does, and so yeah, I mean, it's not like we don't have a chance still. Obviously, we have a pretty good fighting chance, but I think Boston just has a little bit of a leg on us, and so I think it'll be Boston and OKC.
I don't hate that. I think for me, I'm looking at matchups still too. I would love to see Cade against Shea in the finals, kind of like last year with him against Halliburton. But if it's not, the 2 1 seeds, a Wemby against, that Boston team would be pretty fun to watch him going into TD Garden and playing. But I did say earlier this year too, I think I said I thought Minnesota could probably make it back to those West finals and potentially even the finals. So it's really I think the winner gonna come out of the West probably, in terms of finals winners, but I would love to see just a good positional matchup. For now, yeah, I'll probably be a little chalky and just say OKC Detroit because I want to see those two guards play against each other. But maybe I'll change, in 2 days.
Yeah, it's always how it ends up, especially, with some good series going on. So,
Right.
and yeah, there has been a repeat champion since the Warriors. So it's been a different champions, for the last couple of years. Grant, you mentioned, OKC and Boston. That's the last two champions. So I think that would be, a great series. And OKC and Detroit, Nate, I think, Shea versus Cade, some great regular season matchups. And, you had one without the OKC starters, Pistons won, and then one without Detroit starters for real. And OKC was able to take that one. So the regular season matchups between those two teams are great. But yeah, it's really difficult to see, I guess, who comes out of that West. Is Oklahoma City going to be able to repeat it, and go back to the finals, or someone beat them? And then, somebody always comes out of the East that surprise. That's why I kind of went Detroit. Last two seasons we saw, Indiana, nobody picked them to go all the way to the finals. Then we saw Miami, nobody picked them to go to the finals. So I very well could see, them go all the way to the finals. Anybody but Cleveland. I don't want to see Cleveland in the finals. Even if it's New York, I'll hate it, just as much as I'll hate seeing Boston. But I just don't want to see Cleveland because, then it goes against my whole narrative of, them not playing past the second round and all that stuff. So we'll see how it ends up going. But
It's all about the narrative.
exactly. But yeah, so the postseason is underway starting this weekend. We'll keep you guys, updated. We'll give our game analysis and things like that as each series go along and each round goes along. I'm ready to, ready for this ride, man. Like I said, this is, my favorite time of year. Being able to, watch these games and kind of, see everything that unfolds here. And there's always somebody that kind of breaks out. So, I'm interested to see, what team, what player kind of breaks out during this postseason. But that's all we got for you guys now. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, we will catch you guys.